It's team from maverickstar Observatory. The World Health Organization. Why is any country in the world participating in funding this organisation after the massive failure and letdown that it has done to date? It's supposed to be the World Health Organization, the organisation that prevents such things as pandemic outbreaks. First thing Donald Trump did was cut the funding to this organisation. He said that China contributes about £38 million towards it, and America contributes about £250 million, and that is just two countries. And part of the United Nations, there are many countries that inject millions and millions of pounds into this organisation, and it has, by all accounts, failed to do its primary objective. Yet, the first thing that Biden signs off is the funding, or the return of funding, back to the World Health Organization, despite its massive failure in its primary objective. World Health Organization, United Nations and NATO, all the same. But, if you look at Rasputin, when he was running the NATO, Russia's the people we've got to be careful of. They are about to launch an attack on Europe. They can come through in any minute of time and devastate us, blah, blah, blah. But what did NATO do about the poisoning of Litvinenko in London in the sushi bar? What happened? How did NATO prevent such a thing happening as a biochemical weapon being used on a foreign territory? We know where the biological weapon come from. It was Russia. We know why they poisoned Litvinenko. It's because he was a double agent. He was a spy. And what did NATO do about that? How did they prevent that? Just the same as how did the World Health Organization prevent the outbreak of this pandemic now, which has, caused serious health problems around the world. Let's face it. Millions of people have died. As I said, was going to be the case a year ago when this pandemic first came out. They knew, and they failed to notify the world, and in turn failed to lock this down before it got out of hand. And the reason why is because they wanted it clearly to get out of hand, and that is why they're still being funded today. Because otherwise, this organisation would have been shut down immediately. Every country around the world would have ceased funding such an organisation that failed in its first primary objective, and that is to protect the health of the global population. That's what their job is to do. And yet we are faced with a pandemic, and they are still getting paid. It made me laugh, because when they was being interviewed about all this, they said, well, what can we do more, to prevent things like this happening in the future? You know what World Health Organization said? We need more funding. Are you fucking kidding me? This is like giving somebody that goes out in a car every single time and crashes it another car. Because that's exactly what we did. We are still funding this organisation which has failed in its primary objective. We're still funding other organisations like NATO. And, what is this establishment of the United Nations? Is it just a backdoor for billions of pounds to be flooded in so that the criminals can take that money in a justification for doing so? That's what it looks like to me. The World Health Organization should not be in existence today. Yeah, there is more funding going towards it than there ever has been. Biden's reinstated his funding. He didn't just reinstate the funding to this, is something about Biden. He immediately reassigned the Paris Agreement. And you know what that is about, cutting CO2 emissions around the world. We've already covered this on this channel more than once. We've told you, you put a CO2 meter. This is the problem. They know that people will not buy things like CO2 meters to take CO2 readings, because if they did, just one night in their living room, they'd understand that CO2 parts per million go up to about 1,500 to 2,000. During train commuting, it'd probably be about 3,000 parts per million. So, this is what we deal with on a daily basis. This is where our hard-earned money in taxes goes, and this is how they flaunt it, left, right, and centre. We've got organisations such as the European Union that are not elected. No one seems to give a damn, but they're controlling Europe, and not one of them have been elected through a diplomatic process of election. It's amazing. It's amazing how much crap we've all put up with and said nothing to. And you know what? This won't be the end of it. There's more of this crap and more of these organisations that are going to form in the future. And there's going to be more leakage of your taxpayers' money, which is at the end of the day your sweat and labour. Yeah? That 20% you taxed for is what they're going to take off you. And they're going to leak it out through the back door through organisations that are not worth it, that fail and still get funded. If this was me or you, we'd get the sack instantly. That's what one of the good things about Trump did. He recognised something about this organisation and said, well, you are not going to get your funding. You know what? China gives you 38 million, we give you 250 million. We deserved a bit of a heads up on this situation. We could have protected our nation and saved thousands and thousands of lives. But you know what? This organisation, the World Health Organization, failed in its primary objective. Because the World Health at the moment, I think you would agree, is in a real bad condition as a result of their failure. It was their job to stop this leaking out and getting as bad as what it was. I mean, why didn't they? We nipped Ebola in the bud before it got out of hand. Why didn't we do this? It was because it was orchestrated to happen. In order to get the Great Reset happening, they needed this pandemic to take away your rights from protesting, association, and freedom of speech and thought, like I've just mentioned in the previous video. And you know what? Telling everybody this won't change a thing. They'll still continue in the sheeple manner to do as they usually do, which is what? Nothing. And this wasn't something that our ancestors did. We go back to the 1940s, they took it upon themselves to join the forces to eliminate, evil power that would have took over the world if it had have gone unchecked. These were the people that laid their lives down on the line, and today we don't see any brave people like this, we just see cowards. People that are not prepared to sacrifice anything. Even me talking about this subject, poses serious risks because I'm definitely offending people. I don't give a fuck. I really don't care. You know what? If we all are too frightened to act and say something about something that is completely wrong, then we are going to find ourselves moved into a room where we're told we're going to get a shower, then we're going to put you in an accommodation, you're going to be nice and warm. Only thing is, when you go into that room, there isn't a liquid coming out of them shower taps. It's a gas. And it's happened not too long in our history. We better remember that and think about that.